Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? I know, third video of the day, but listen, when you get this much information, you got to get it out there, right? So, one thing before I get started. I know that my intro is all about my son and my kids, okay? My nieces, my nephews. But if I hear one more thing about how it's douchey, okay, I don't care. My son is a United States Marine, and I'm proud of him. And a lot of you have been on this journey with me and my son, and I thank you. I thank each and every one of you. So please don't put my son down because he serves this country and he fights for all of our freedoms. Okay? Thank you. So, grab your coffee, maybe a snack or two, and let's get into it. So, there is a program, okay, that is about to expire. And this program helps millions of children that would normally go hungry. All right? Now, one of the most fundamental and intuitive facts about learning is that it's hard to focus or really much do anything if you're hungry. Now, we've all raised children, whether they were your own children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. You know that the one thing they can't do is focus when they're hungry, right? There's a hierarchy of needs, and stomachs come out on top, especially if you have a high-wired child, like my nephew who's 7 years old, and that kid literally eats you out of house and home. All right, so, yet youth advocates are staring down a chilling deadline right now, okay? And June 30th, okay, was the last day for Congress to reauthorize a series of waivers that had allowed public schools to creatively deliver meals to students during the pandemic, okay? Now, this was originally passed in March of 2020, and the waivers granted schools the flexibility to navigate not only the challenges of remote learning and the Rona, but also the supply chain crisis and the school labor shortage and the steep inflation at the grocery store. And the waivers also expanded eligibility for school meals, enabling an additional 10 million students to access free breakfast and lunch each day. Now, you know as well as I do, a lot of these children, the only time they get to eat is when they're at school. Okay? So education leaders assume that Congress would just re-extend the meal flexibility for one more year. And these waivers, which expired at the end of June, they were extended twice before on a bipartisan basis. But in February, there were Democratic representatives Abigail Spanberger, I don't know if I said her last name right, and Suzanne Bonamici, and Republican reps Brian Fitzpatrick and John Katko. They introduced the Keeping School Meals Flexible Act to extend them one last time through June of 2023. But when Congress passed its $1.5 trillion spending bill in March, the language for school meals was completely missing. So advocates were stunned, of course, and say that this decision alone was already jeopardizing access to summer meals for nearly 7 million children. So there's a woman, Jillian Mayer. She's the director of No Kid Hungry campaign, okay? And she said that there is no urgency and political appetite to even have this conversation. Frankly, this is not a priority for Congress and the White House. People are really focused on having a return to normal, and folks aren't talking about it, and they have no clue that this crisis that is looming. So many people would certainly like to see the waiver authorizing universal free meals made permanent, reducing the stigma for children and administrative burdens on parents and school districts. But advocates say that that's not what this fight is about. Instead, they're seeking just one more year of flexibility to help schools weather the inflation and supply chain crises, and to contact the millions of families who have not filled out school meal application forms over the last 2.5 years. So, so the school lunches, they are not immune to the supply chain and inflation crises. So we know this, okay? And Congress, they could easily extend these waivers, easily do it. But will they? That's the thing. All right, so on to this. So Turkey and Russia, they agree on the Ukrainian grain exports from Odessa. All right, and the Russia government, they planned on allowing, ships carrying grains supplies to leave the port of Odessa in Ukraine, and this was according to a report, easing a blockade that has triggered fears of widespread shortages and hunger. Okay, and the Russian leadership has agreed with Kyiv and Ankara on a scheme to release grain shipments from Odessa, which has been the subject to a blockade. The pro-government, it's called Izvestia, Izvestia, and this was reported citing government circles. So Russian warships, they're supposed to escort these vessels carrying the grain to Bosporus. All right, so it's just terrible. So now on to this. All right, this is just strange. This is out of Australia. All right, so there's a grocery store there called Coles, Coles, and there's something strange going on with lettuce now. All right, now shoppers, what they're doing is they're taking heads of lettuce and they're stripping the lettuce leaves and filling the shopping carts with them. It's very strange. I know. It's like, you would never think you would ever see or hear about anything like this. It's very strange. So people, are literally doing this. Okay, they're leaving the outer leaves of the iceberg lettuce and filling their shopping carts because they think they can do this and get the lettuce for free. Yeah. So I have this picture, okay, that was sent to me from someone who lives in Australia. Okay. You're going to crack up when you see this. And it's from the paper, and it says, biggest rate rise in 2 decades, along with petrol and food hikes, putting even humble groceries out of reach. And it's a big head of lettuce, and it says, let us pray. So this picture was sent to me, and she says, this is proof of shrinkflation. A year ago, this denture cream was the size of a small toothpaste. It's like 2 times smaller and triple the price, and no, I don't wear dentures. Haha, just for my first aid kit. Okay, so you know how I was just talking about, how Russia is going to allow the exporting of the grains, okay, and remove the blockades and whatnot. So I'm going to put up a picture, okay? And I want you to let this sink in for just a second, all right? They say they want you to believe because of this tiny red spot on the map, okay, which is Ukraine. We have worldwide shortages of oil, gas, paper, milk, grain, and other raw materials. And now this. So this is a graph of destructive events that have happened over time between February of 2019 until February of 2022. The first line that you see is a blue line, and it's the food processing plants. Then the second one is like an orange line, grain silo fires. The next one is gray, and it's destroyed cattle and poultry and hogs. The next one is yellow for warehouse fires. The next one is a lighter blue for feed processing plants. And the next one is green for hectares loss, HECTARES. Total number of events. And it just goes up and up and up and up. And some of them are just lay flat. Yeah. And then this was sent to me. And it says, there's a lawyer in Canada that sent an email to a trusted friend in the States. He also makes videos on YouTube. He said there's 2 months to prepare before stage 5 is implemented, which is food rationing, martial law. And this is for Canada and Australia. He mentioned it will be like Shanghai form of lockdown. That's scary. I can't imagine, because those people in Shanghai, man, did they suffer big time. So this subscriber wrote in and she said, listeria is like salmonella. If the food is heated to 165 degrees all the way through and the temperature is maintained for at least 2 or more minutes, it kills the listeria. Cheese and peanut butter muffins, anyone? I had to. I mean, it's so darn funny. So there is a PDF that a subscriber wants me to share with you, okay? And she said she's in a Facebook group called Awake Canada, and she joined it to follow what's going on in Canada back when the truckers were protesting. She said they share so much data, it's hard to keep up with it. She said it's good stuff, and there's over 100,000 people in this group, and they share political stuff and, you know, injuries and asking for help, etc. And they share PDF files on a lot of great things. And she noticed that this one PDF, and she wanted to share it with this community. She said, I have to grab those files because Facebook can remove that group. Oh, right. It's getting so big and no one holds back on what's really going on. Ah, okay. She said it helps you raise your energy and vibration to remove fear, etc., and makes you feel better and more. I have not read the whole thing, but Nikola Tesla invented free energy. And he had a big lab, I think in the early part of the century, where you would not have to pay for electricity, etc. And guess who destroyed it? His whole lab, and took all his documents and research. It was J.P. Morgan or something like that. Because they wanted to create telephone lines and electrical lines and charge people and make money off of it, when they could it could have been for free. There's a freaking surprise. She said, I'm attaching the PDF here. Okay. Okay. So if you want that PDF, email me, all right, and I will send it to you, all right? So before I go, here is a picture that was sent to me, and it's really, really strange. So a subscriber and her husband, they were taking a walk the other day, and she said, and as you know, Google is following us on all of our phones. Yeah, that's why, you know, I always turn my location off. I don't ever have that on. And she said, and many people get reports sent to them on their locations, where they've been, etc. She said, well, a new item was added to the list of tracking. She said, looks like my husband isn't doing well. I've attached the screenshot. And it's a picture of a globe, okay? And it says, your travel in 2022 so far. 17% around the world. Total travel, 4,322 miles. Low emission level, 2 miles. Low emission level. What? And this includes walking, cycling, public transport, and other typically low emission options. Learn more about climate change. All right, I'm going to put that picture up. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. You stay safe. You stay positive. You keep prepping. And as always, fear less. Ciao.